Hello there, my name is Andy Crowe. I'm joined today with Bill Yates and Louis Alderman. We work with Velociteach and we work with project managers, training project managers, helping them become better. One of the things we do, and we're getting a lot of questions about these days, is help people prepare for the Project Management Professional Certification Exam, or the PMP exam that the Project Management Institute administers. So we're going to be talking you through some changes coming on January 11th, 2016. The PMP exam is changing. Now, all of this change that we'll cover in some detail was triggered by one little document called the Role Delineation Study. Bill, what is this Role Delineation Study?
Yeah, so the RDS, we'll shorten it to that. The Role Delineation Study is a survey of project managers. And this is PMI's way to, about every 6 years, to take a look at the project management community, those practitioners, and see, does the standard that they have today, does it match the actual role that the practitioners are carrying out in day-to-day life? So does reality match what they have as the standard? So in that, they survey project managers across the globe, across industry, and look at the skill sets and the knowledge needed in order to be successful as a PM. So that's your role delineation study.
So there are a couple of documents in play here. The PMBOK guide. And the PMBOK guide, Louis, doesn't sound like it's changing.
It's not changing at all, Andy. It changes, as Bill said, about every 4 years. And so the change in the RDS is sort of a leapfrog game at this point. The RDS is now caught up with the previous changes in the PMBOK guide. The area of stakeholder management, for example, was a new knowledge area with the current edition of the PMBOK guide, and the RDS has now caught up with that concept.
Okay, so we've got 10 knowledge areas staying the same?
Absolutely, 10 knowledge areas.
5 process groups?
Or as the RDS calls them, domains of project management. And what's really key are the 47 processes. I instruct students as they question what's the right answer on an exam, adjudicate their answer based on the framework. What does the process do to guide the theory, the theory of the practice of project management?
So 47 processes, these are the same ones that have been there all along?
These are the exact same processes.
Okay, that sounds good. So in that case, nothing's changing, right, Bill?
Don't you wish it was so easy?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Through the role delineation study, the items that are changing have been highlighted as, okay, this is where we see a different emphasis in the day-to-day life of a project manager versus what we have, PMI, what they have on the exam. So we see little nuances. We see more emphasis on stakeholder management.
Okay.
We see maybe a slightly different role on things like a project charter. How involved is the PM in either writing the project charter or being a part, collaborating on that? So you see small changes. So you mentioned 2 documents. There's another document, and it's the PMP Exam Content Outline. That did change.
Right. And so now we've got this situation where we've got a theoretical framework of the PMBOK guide. That's not changing. We've got the role delineation study. That has changed. And then the exam spec sort of follows suit to catch up and align between the two. Now, I have a question for you. 25% of the questions on the PMP exam are going to be changing. And there's only 8 new tasks on the role delineation study. That sounds like a lot. Help me understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, you guys help me with the math. So 25% of 200, how many questions are we talking?
50.
50 questions could have changed per PMI. These are things that they've stated on the website. They've had videos attesting to that as well. So when we look at the 25% and we took a strategy as a group. We looked at, okay, what is the PMP exam content outline before the change, and what is the content after the change, after the role delineation study? We identified 8 new tasks. We identified some other changes as well. Walk us through some of that, Louis. How do we do that comparison, and how did that impact our approach?
Well, the exam content outline gives us a percentage breakdown of what percentage of the content will be covered on the exam. As we take a look at that breakdown and the tasks associated with those percentages, if you simply multiply the number of tasks by their percentage content on the exam, just that analysis alone, I actually came up with 23.7%. But what's a few tenths of a point amongst friends, right? So there could be possibly that much change. Now, that doesn't mean it's a dramatic shift. It may be just a shift in emphasis, a shift on focus, but not necessarily a shift in correctness.
I'll tell you, that's exactly what I'm expecting, Louis, is a recalibration of the exam. I'm not expecting a lot of new terms. I'm not expecting a lot of brand new concepts that project managers have not seen before or that currently aren't in the PMBOK guide or aren't represented on the current PMP exam. What I am expecting is sort of a retuning. So like you said, there's going to be some more emphasis on stakeholder management than necessarily what was in the PMBOK guide. The PMBOK guide treats stakeholder management kind of lightly. And the RDS is coming back saying, you know what, a lot of PMs spend a lot of time managing stakeholders, and this really probably needs a little more emphasis. So really, that's the theoretical part. But here's what people are wondering: okay, what materials are changing for the exam that we produce? So we produce a lot of materials. Bill, let's talk through. We've got a couple of really popular practice tests out on the internet through Insight.
Right.
Practice test A and B are kind of famous, or maybe infamous among test takers. And are those going to be changing?
Yes, those are changing. As Louis pointed out, the percentages have changed. There's a shift there. So those have been updated in Insight to review those changes and reflect those changes.
And so is it safe to say that practice test A and practice test B will be aligned to the changes coming in the upcoming
Yes.
January 11th change? Right. And Louis, we have a lot of materials for classrooms. We have ProQuip that our commercial customers license. We have Enact that PMI chapters use. We have our own live course materials. What about those? Do those need to change?
They changed slightly to add the emphasis that PMI has informed us about through the RDS. And so those changes have been made both to ProQuip and the Enact curriculum. The instructors have been given briefs or the ability to obtain that brief of information about what has changed. So it's, again, to just sort of reinforce the renewed emphasis. They're not dramatic changes. I can count on a hand and a half the changes in each course.
Yeah, it sounds like to me that we've got this situation where 25% of the exam is changing, but it's not as dramatic a shift as you might think. In other words, the theoretical amount in the PMBOK guide, that hasn't changed at all. This is sort of a recalibration, a retuning with the Role Delineation Study that you need to reflect in your study habits as well. So there are other materials, quick reference guides, flashcards, all that staying the same because, again, the 47 processes are not changing a bit. And so most test takers are going to be fine in that. I'll tell you one more thing I believe, and this is just a theory. We don't know this. The PMP exam has 25 experimental questions on it. These are not graded. These exam questions are in there, and they're called experimental questions. They're peppered throughout the exam. They're sprinkled throughout. You don't know when you're seeing an experimental question and when you're seeing a real one. But here's the point. What PMI does with these questions is they go back, they analyze them, and they look to see how people are performing on the PMP exam. They want to know, is everybody getting this question right? Then they might make it a little trickier. Is everybody getting this question wrong? Then they might clarify it a little bit. But what they do with these experimental questions is they're candidates for future exams. So we believe, it's my strong opinion, that the new 50 questions that people are about to see on the PMP exam, up to 50 questions, are already being reflected in these experimental questions. You know why? Because PMI doesn't like surprises. They don't want to be surprised any more than you do and have all of a sudden this dramatic change out there in the community. They don't want to be disruptive. The PMP exam is important to them just like it is to our test takers. Now, one more question, guys. There is another test called the CapM, another certification. Stands for the Certified Associate of Project Management. Is the CapM exam changing? It's similar to the PMP exam.
Right, it's very similar, but no, it's not. The exam content outline for the CapM has not changed. It's still based on the 5th edition PMBOK guide. Therefore, there's no change to the CapM exam.
Okay, that sounds like good news.
That's great news.
If you're a test taker. All right, so the message I'm getting from you guys, and this is one that I agree with, is that people should be focused on the change. This is a recalibration. This is not a wholesale turn the exam upside down like it is maybe when the PMBOK guide changes every 4 years. There's a lot more uncertainty in that kind of thing than there is here. Is that correct? Is that a fair assessment?
I believe that's very fair, Andy.
Yep.
Okay, well, we hope that's helped. We hope that you'll use good materials out there. There are a lot of good materials. We love the ones from Velociteach. Obviously, we're partial. And we thank you for your time and wish you great luck and success on the exam.